kitchen, I really wanted to have an island. One, I wanted to have it for the storage, two, for the counter space, and three, there's quite a bit of room here, but not so much room that there's a perfect spot for it. So sometimes maybe it's great to have it like this, but maybe sometimes you want to have it like this, because we have our living room right here, we have our pass through to our laundry and our back door right there, and it's not a huge space. So I wanted the functionality of being able to move this around if it wasn't quite where you wanted it all the time. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how I took my basic stock cabinets that I purchased, added a frame and casters, and made a mobile island. And it also looks like it's built in. Like, you really, unless you were looking for it, I don't think would know that it was mobile. We trimmed it out at the bottom, we add backer to the back of the cabinets. So it really looks like it's supposed to be wherever you leave it. So let's go ahead and build this together.
The first thing I did was flip the cabinets onto their back so I could access the bottom. And then what I did was I removed whatever drawers and doors I needed to install my faceplate clamps and get these screwed together and make sure everything was aligned exactly how I wanted it. At first, I was hoping that I would just be able to cut little holes and slide the 2x4s through and then assemble everything once it was in. But because of the edge on the outside of each of the cabinets, there's no way I could have slid it through. So I ended up cutting this all the way down to the bottom. And then I just pre-assembled the whole frame with glues and pocket screws and then attached it. So I have extra boards right here. I have these 3/4 inch boards because my base cabinets are not the same, and that one sticks up a little bit higher than that one. Those aren't flush, so I have to make up that depth. You probably won't have that. Added a little bit more bracing before we attached everything. Before I attached my wheels, I made sure that no matter which way they spun, these are like 360 ball bearing wheels, they didn't bump into one corner or one edge of the cabinet. I wanted these as spread out as possible for stability as I could, but I wanted them to be able to move easily and freely all directions. Now, one thing that I learned from my experience was I got the locking wheels because we liked that idea, but wanting a piece of furniture that looked permanent and built in, you can't access the lock if you cover it up. So if you're going to do what I did here, save the money and don't even bother to buy a locking wheel. If you want a locking wheel, some part of it is going to have to be accessible. So you kind of have to make that decision. These are really nice, sturdy wheels. So far, we've been happy with them. They're non-marking. I'll give you guys an Amazon link to these if you're interested in them. But yeah, just keep those things in mind. After I attached my caster framework, I did this through drilling inside of the cabinet downward into the framing and then also in the strong, thicker parts around the frame of my cabinet, so my middle section and my side sections. After I did that, I lifted the cabinet up to the upward position, and then I wanted to make sure I had a consistent gap in the back. Because these cabinets have a face frame on them in the front when they're screwed together, there's a little gap between them. I wanted to reinforce that in the back so it was consistent in the front and the back. I reinstalled my doors and drawers and just made sure everything smoothly moved the way I wanted it to. So obviously we want the back of that to be finished. You can get these panels. They're actually kind of cool. They just look like shiplap, and they're already primed white at Home Depot. So this stuff is, I had a haul. It's really windy outside. It's like a kite in the wind. So one side was damaged at the store and one side got damaged when this stuff was kicking my ASS trying to get it into the house. So I'm going to rip down one side and then I'm going to take my measurement and then I'll figure out top to bottom what I need to do. I then glued and brad nailed the panel to the back of the cabinets. Make sure you pay attention to the length of your brad nails. Don't do something too long that's going to go into the back of your cabinet and affect the function of your drawers or just stick out of the back of the inside of your cabinet. So once that was installed, I used my fill stick to just fill any holes, and then I went ahead and started to install the trim all the way along the bottom. Now we went pretty low down because we wanted this to look basically like a cabinet. We wanted it to not look like it was mobile. You can kind of make the decision with your trim what height you want to mount it at.
All right, so now we have our trim along the base and we have our beadboard on the back. Well, I guess it's not beadboard, it's like faux shiplap. So I have this corner trim and it just comes, they have different widths depending on, you know, the gap you're trying to bridge. This is just the smallest one I could get as far as like not being like a huge piece. So I'm going to measure for the corners because see, we have the imperfection where just the paneling ends, so we're going to cover that up.
I used my fill stick again to fill the brad nail holes from attaching my corner trim, and then I caulked all the way around the trim and got everything cleaned up with Clorox wipes or wet wipes. That's just a nice way to keep everything clean while you're caulking.